Hi, I'm Henry Haddad, and in this video presentation I'll be covering employment-based visas. The areas we'll cover is who employment-based immigration is for, the main requirements for working in America, how to start the process through a temporary visa called the H-1B visa. Employment-based visas are for anyone who wants to work in America. Typically, you need to be well educated, have a bachelor's degree or more, or better, like a master's degree, and have skill sets that are in demand in America. This is half the equation. The other half is you have to have an employer, a sponsor, who is willing to apply for you because there is a business need to have you, the skilled worker, work for that company. There are five main types of employment visas. Typically, these are Preference 1, 2, 3A and B, and Preference 4, which I'll be covering now. The employer on all these types of visas other than Preference 1 must advertise through online and offline channels to show that there are no qualified workers for the job. This is called the PERM process, P-E-R-M. And the idea is we have to test the local market to see if there are any U.S. workers that are qualified for this job. If there are none, then the job will be offered to this foreign worker who has the qualifications. To do so, the job description must be specific. For example, if you're applying for a marketing position, in the job description, we cannot put marketing and also sales and also accounting. It will not work. It has to be strictly, description has to be strictly applicable to those in the marketing field. And the employer must pay prevailing wages. So the employer cannot say, look, I can get away with paying a foreigner less than a U.S. worker. Let me go through this process. That's not allowed. Preference 1 typically is for those who have extraordinary ability in the arts, the sciences, or sports, and there is no PERM requirement, no advertising to see if the U.S. worker is qualified. This is a self-petitioning application, and it's one of the rarest ones only because typically these well-renowned scientists, artists, athletes come here and they find a job quickly and they can get other visas, or if they want to come and consult and do something that they have an interest in doing, it's basically self-petitioning. It's not a problem, but the field is very small. Most people fall under either Preference 2 or Preference 3, A or B. Preference 2 are for the jobs that require at least a master's degree. And keep in mind that because you have a master's degree doesn't mean that the job that you're seeking requires someone to have a master's degree to work it. So if a job typically requires someone with a bachelor's degree, just because you have a master's degree doesn't mean that you're more than qualified and you should get the job. We look at the job itself. We look at various books to tell us whether this specific job requires a master's degree or simply a bachelor's degree. If it requires a master's degree and you have the qualifications and experience, then we can utilize your diploma, your degree for that job. Under the Preference 2 category, the master's degree category, there is no waiting period, no quota. If you find an employer and they go through the PERM process, advertise online and offline, make sure there are no qualified American workers for this job, then we can start the process, and the process will lead to your obtaining U.S. residency or a green card. Under Preference 3A, you need to have a bachelor's degree or 2 years experience. Again, a job description has to be specific for that job. Currently, the applications that are being processed by immigration are those that were filed before November 2005, which means that there is a 6-year waiting period. And how to cover those 6 years, because most employers don't want to wait 6 years, is to go through the H-1B visa application, which we will cover shortly. Again, under this classification, your employer must go through the perm process, must advertise on and offline to see if there's a qualified U.S. worker. Preference 3B are for those jobs that require less than 2 years experience. Typically machinists, machine operators, a tool and die maker, jobs of those nature. There is a quota, and that means that now immigration is working on those applications filed before August 2005. So it's a 6 year wait. The only problem with this classification is that there is no H-1B visa process if you have less than 2 years experience. So the employer has to go through the perm process, make sure there are no U.S. qualified workers, and you have to wait your 6 years before you're eligible to either come to the United States as a resident and work for this employer, or you have to find other means to come to the United States. Preference 4 is religious workers. Typically, you worked for a religious institution for 2 years and you're coming to America to work for another religious institution. There is no perm requirement here, and typically this is for ministers, pastors, choir directors, any essential job associated with a religious institution. It does not have to be a pastor or minister. It could be an associate pastor or minister. But again, any job that is essential in a religious institution setting. The H-1B process typically is to allow workers who have at least a bachelor's degree to come to America on a temporary basis. You can stay in America for up to 3 years, and you'll receive another extension of 3 years, and at the same time you can adjust your status and become a permanent resident, but you must go through the perm process. So what that means is that I'm an employer, I need your skills, I need you to work for me, you have computer programming skills, I need someone now, I apply for you in H-1B, under an H-1B visa, I pay you the prevailing wage. Once you come in, then I start the perm process. I test the U.S. market to see if there's any qualified U.S. worker. If there are none, then while you're working for me here temporarily, I can also apply for you as an employer to become a U.S. resident, to work for me permanently. This is important for you and for the employer because you're going to have a semi-long-term relationship, at least 6 years of working together. Action steps. You have to find an American employer who's willing to hire you. Nowadays, you look through online, you look through employment agencies, you talk to your friends, family members who are here in America who can look for employers in industries that you have skills in, that you have a degree in. Look at the skills that you have, the education you have. Is it in demand in America? Oftentimes, foreign degrees must be evaluated here to make sure that it's an equivalent to a U.S. bachelor's degree. And look at who do you want to work for. Remember, under preference 3A, with a bachelor's degree, if you get an H-1B visa, you're making commitment for at least 6 years to be in the U.S. working for the same employer. That's important. For more information about this type of visa, simply type in your name, email address, immigration visa you are interested in learning more about at the bottom of the Facebook page. Then press the Submit button. When you press the Submit button, you will receive in your email the slides of this presentation along with an immigration guide with more information on how you and your family can come to America with this visa. We will not share your information with anyone for any reason. Take care, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.